Part 91. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 905. Is this the resonance technique? Garen stood far away, watching this guy with extremely weak actual combat experience, constantly waving the resonance technique indiscriminately to fight against non-existent illusory opponents under the mental confusion of the chaotic cold realm. Awesome, he's obviously just a piece of trash that's not very good in all aspects, but he can explode with such powerful strength in an instant just because of his resonance. Garen sighed in his heart. If there was no chaotic cold territory, if he encountered the opponent's explosion this time, even if he didn't die, his mecha would at least be corroded and injured. Moreover, after the resonance skill was activated, the speed and power of the white mecha increased by about 30%. Coupled with the large number of vine tentacles and the highly toxic corrosive effect that broke out at a touch, his mecha might really not good. Garen's eyes suddenly trembled. The opponent suddenly got rid of the shackles of the chaotic illusion and appeared in front of him as if teleporting. A large number of vines rushed towards him. What kind of ability is that, suddenly teleported in front of him, and got rid of all illusions? Even the chaotic cold territory seemed completely unaffected. Stupid. Although I am uneducated and incompetent, I can cooperate with the teacher's short-distance dimensional jump and kill whoever he wants. He. Die. The white pilot roared loudly. He was sitting in the cabin, and a white necklace hanging on his chest kept shining with white light, resisting the chaos and mental confusion in the cold zone that was everywhere around him. Several thick main vines swept towards Galen. The dark green surface is dripping with green mucus. The mucus pressed against the ground, quickly evaporating into bursts of sour and poisonous mist. Tisk tisk tisk. The sword and the vines intersected rapidly, only 3 swords. The 2 swords in Garen's hands broke at the same time, melting into black water and dripping down. His own body retreated wildly, and a large area of the front of his body was corroded and burned through the outer armor, exposing the silver-white skeletal system inside. Without the external armor, only the skeletal system is left. At this time, even if Garen is hit by an ordinary high-energy ray gun, the mecha may be paralyzed. Ha ha ha. Too many people have died due to this trick of mine. Do you really think that I can't do anything without learning or skills? Crazy laughter came from the white mecha. There really isn't anything simple at the crescent moon level. Garen finally realized this cruel fact. The 5th level masters who can reach the resonance level of the crescent moon level must have experienced a lot of actual combat, even if the one in front of him seems to be incompetent. The guy also has such a terrifying trump card. With that move just now, any 5th level pilot would have been caught by the vines, corroded and destroyed, and completely defeated. Maybe some resonance pilots of the crescent moon class were attacked in this way, and they might be killed without even using their resonance skills. This guy is pretending to be a pig and eating the tiger. Garen originally thought that the other party was just a playboy who was forcibly fed by resources. I just have some talent, I didn't expect it. Run. Keep running. Little bastard. You actually let me chase you for so long and wasted so much energy. Now let me run. The white mecha laughed arrogantly. You actually dare to offend Brother Phila with your little ability. I really don't know how the word death is written. The vines around him were dancing wildly, as if they were really mutated monsters. From a distance, they looked like a giant vine monster more than 10 meters long. The whole body is dark green, and a large amount of mucus is constantly dripping. Now, hand over the good things you have on you, then kneel on the ground and call Grandpa 3 times. I may consider sparing your life. The white mecha said wildly. Act recklessly. Garen laughed mockingly, threw away the mostly corroded sword, straightened his body and completely let go of the mecha's defense. It seems you really want to die, bastard. The white mecha's voice suddenly paused, and then became even more sinister and deep. Please come and kill me. Garen showed a mysterious smile. Please. I told you to beg. There was a loud bang, and the vines around the white mecha exploded again, expanded in a large circle, and swiped towards Garen's location. The huge vines simultaneously threw out a large amount of green mucus and splashed onto the surrounding ground. The soil and even stones on the ground were corroded into puddles of black water, with white smoke rising. Just when the white mecha pulled away and wanted to fly out of the swamp and rush towards Garen, an accident happened. Ouch! A huge black mouth rushed out from under the swamp, biting most of the white mecha's body, and his entire lower body, and the vines were bitten hard by this huge mouth. This mouth is no different from a fish mouth. It is completely black and has smooth edges. It is just that the mouth is covered with a large number of dense tentacles. The ends of these tentacles are actually suckers the size of a wash basin. They can pin the white mecha hard. Come down. It pounced out, and in the huge fish mouth, which was more than 20 meters wide, at least hundreds of tentacle suckers fiercely attached to the surface of the white mecha, constantly making harsh sucking sounds. No. Big mouth beast. No, the white mecha froze, as if it were an animal paralyzed by poison. It was motionless, but there was a strong howl of pain from within the mecha. Click. The fish's mouth swallowed it whole, swallowing the white mecha directly. Garen, who was watching the battle from the side, was also frightened. This was a Crescent level 5 master. Just now he almost destroyed his only squad leader mecha. It was actually vulnerable to this weird mutated radiation beast. He also sensed something was wrong in this swamp before, so he led the white mecha over. Unexpectedly, during the fight, he sensed some hidden threat from the underground group, so he carefully avoided his body from sinking into it. In the swamp. The Soul Seed's intuition told him that this swamp must be extremely dangerous. And now, a Crescent-class mecha that he couldn't confront head-on was actually swallowed up by this huge giant mouth beast. The giant mouth beast had no eyes, only a huge mouth sticking out of the ground, and then it bit around for a while, but found no target, and then retreated back into the swamp unwillingly. Strangely, the swamp where a large hole was originally drilled quickly returned to its original shape as the toucan retracted. Large swamps automatically moved around, forming the same unrecognizable camouflage again. Garen stood on the edge, his body constantly emitting cold energy radiation. The cold air froze the smell emitted from his mecha. He judged that the giant mouth beast mainly relied on smell and alien breath to identify its prey, and deliberately used it to identify its prey. He reduced his aura to a minimum, and then lured the arrogant white mecha to walk over the giant mouth beast. Then naturally, tragedy happened. Tisk, tisk. It's so miserable. Not even a single bone is left after retreating dozens of meters. Garen felt that the faint sense of threat had completely disappeared. The radiation belt is indeed full of dangers. This is the first time I have seen a terrifying mutant beast that can threaten pilots with a long sigh. Garen turned around and flew in the direction of Flying Ray City. Not long after he left, a black shadow fell from the clouds in the sky, looked at the swamp, and then looked in the direction Garen left. As expected of Professor Fanduo, he is a genius student that Huadali takes care of. He came all the way here without me having to do anything. A relaxed voice came from the black shadow. While still a student, he was able to design an elite army master to kill Bai Guang. Are all the children today so perverted? The opponents that Nono Siwa and Anda faced were no longer simply limited to the confines of the academy, but had truly broken away from the small circle of the academy, and came into contact with the truly cruel circle of adults just like 3 UN and 1 star. In the academy, perhaps such a 5th level Crescent pilot can be regarded as the top class of people. But outside, although there are not many such levels, it is not uncommon. After all, the student's growth time is only a fraction, or even 1/5, or 1/10 of these people. The difference in strength caused by such a gap cannot be made up simply by talent and hard work. As a genius valued by Fan Duo of the Black Annihilation sect, How could he go out and casually not take care of him at all? Garen also guessed this, so he has never been too worried. This is why he has always seemed extremely calm. There will be no trouble next. It's time to send a letter to the professor, the Black Shadow murmured, rising into the air, spraying blue flames from behind and flying towards the distance, disappearing at the edge of the grassland in the blink of an eye. Who else? Black Pen Academy, in front of the central teaching building. The huge square was filled with students from the outer courtyard, but there were hundreds of people standing in the square facing several women in the center, and no one spoke. In front of Liana lay a charred man's body. He was not dead, but half of his consciousness had been destroyed. This was the result of his previous battle with the rapid spear Liana. Black Pen Academy, known as the most cruel Dark Academy, now it seems that it is nothing more than that. A woman next to Liana laughed loudly. Where is your so-called strongest little 3UN1 star? Come out, don't waste time looking for these rubbish. Liana moved her wrist joints and said calmly. Buzz. Only then did the surrounding students realize that these people were not joking at all. They were actually the elite of the inner courtyard who came to challenge Black Pen, Xiao Sanyuan 1 star. A little known rapid spear Liana in Maria College, no one had heard of her name before, but now here, it is the stage where her talent truly shines. This guy actually regards the entire Black Pen Academy as a stepping stone for her to rise and shine. I've long heard that Black Pan's little Sanyuan 1 star is the strongest among the younger generation of students. I didn't expect that someone would hit me on the nose. Why don't you dare to come out and fight? There was a sharp voice in the crowd. Get up, I don't know where it came from. A smile appeared at the corner of Liana's mouth. She knew the real inside story. She chose the gap where 3UN and 1 star left the Black Disc, and then came to challenge the entire inner courtyard of the Black Disc Academy, just in time to make a name for herself. And the person who spoke out in the crowd was also a Black Disc student whom she bribed and arranged. 3UN and 1 star, the most powerful existence in the Black Disc, ranks at the top, and is known as the well-deserved strongest person in the entire Black Disc inner courtyard. The first-ranked person is naturally the Black Star Diofi, who is known as the Black Star and is also the future pillar of the Black Pen Academy. The second is the three people who are tied, one of whom is the red-eyed Metro, and the other two are Kafi and Southern Lysis. The four of them are collectively known as the 3UN and 1 star of the entire Black Disc. As for the small 3UN and 1 star in the back, those are just the new masters who have risen in recent years. Far inferior to these four people. As for the others, Blanding, Fella, and others at the bottom of the ranking would never appear in such a scene. These are the high-ranking Prince and Princess Party, and they are also inextricably linked to other domains. It is impossible to work hard for the Black Pen domain. But even if she takes action, Liana is not afraid. In fact, her real goal this time is to aim at Blanding, who is ranked 4th. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 906. How dare the guy from Maria Domain dare to be so arrogant? At this time, among a group of dark mechas flying past the academy, several mechas slowly descended and floated into the air next to the teaching building, overlooking the bottom. The speaker was one of the powerful machines with two curved horns on its chest. Who is this? Get down. Liana raised her head, and two bolts of lightning flashed out of her eyes. The blue lightning rushed towards the sky with thunder. At the same time, the man in the sky also released a black mist like smoke consciousness, sweeping downwards. The blue electric light and the black mist collided fiercely. The electric light broke through the black mist with a click and hit the surface of the black machine body. The pilot inside immediately let out a groan of pain and took several steps back. How stupid! A trace of contempt flashed in Liana's eyes. You think relying on mechas to increase their power will be useful? Yes. The Black Disc realm is really becoming less and less advanced. To be incomparable, we have to rely on the increase of the machine body. If this is the case, we might as well just drive the machine body over and compete. It's 3 UN and 1 star, but that's it behind Liana. A woman snorted loudly. You bitch, the black machine roared uncontrollably and was repulsed. He was still driven back by the machine, which made him feel angry. He was actually repelled by a woman in front of everyone. Calm down, Jack. Her target is the people of Blue Narcissus. Wait and see what happens. A person behind him held down him who was about to go crazy, but the huge force actually restrained him instantly. Liana sneered. I will wait here for 3 days. If your so-called little 3 UN 1 star does not come out in 3 days, I will treat it as having seen the so-called elites of the Black Pan inner courtyard. She turned around and led the way towards the accommodation, followed by the other women behind her. No one dared to stop the group, and they quickly disappeared into the crowd. Walk. The black mecha in the sky continued to fly away, heading towards the entrance and exit of the inner courtyard. In the main teaching building, there is a room with large floor-to-ceiling windows in the middle. Several teachers were quietly watching the changes in the movement below. Not bad, there are more and more outstanding disciples in Maria Domain now, and it seems to be developing quite well. A middle-aged man with a beard said with a smile. Just in time to give these lazy boys a little motivation. Don't always act like I'm the best in the world, stimulation is also a good thing. Another plump middle-aged woman nodded and said, as long as you have a certain degree, don't be too just pass it. That little girl should have reached the half-month level. She is only 30 years old. She is really young, a teacher whispered. The children of one of the princes of Maria Domain have a strong background, rich resources, and their own talents are not bad. It is not surprising that they are of this level. Inform the heads of each department to submit the list of outstanding students from each department, and choose the right candidate to go out and stimulate this little girl, the middle-aged woman ordered. Clear. It must be elite. If you are a little weak, you will be destroyed if you can't pass this hurdle. If you are too strong, this kid will pick the time and go out all the time. The middle-aged woman said speechlessly, seeming to remember that San Yun and 1 star were all out on missions. I'll inform the vice principal right away. A teacher turned around and went out. There was only one principal in the outer college. That was the dean's job concurrently, but he actually didn't do anything. The other vice principal was actually in charge of affairs. Person in charge. Soon. Other offices in the teaching building also received notices from the vice principal to dispatch elite students from various departments to meet Liana's challenge. In an office filled with red wooden furniture, 2 men sighed and chatted. One stood leaning on the mahogany table, and the other sat on the leather chair behind the table, both with bitter faces. My system is dead. The auxiliary combat system has an average level of consciousness that is 1 level weaker than the main combat system. It's up to you, Onsidon, the man standing said helplessly. I can't help it. Onsidon is mainly responsible for the transfer of students in the Mechanized Warfare Department and is also the head of the Mechanized Warfare Department. This matter actually fell on him. In addition to the Mechanized Warfare Department, there are also Field Combat and Special Forces. Is that okay? We can't be responsible for everything, right? He also saw the scene below the window just now, the resonance level of the 5th and half moon level. This level is considered an elite level in the inner courtyard. How could he find a suitable candidate for confrontation in this department? Don't you recommend a few geniuses to enter the inner court every year? If there is anything good about those who enter, call them out and see. The standing man came here specifically to find someone to represent their auxiliary combat department. He can't lose to Ugly, and he has no choice. Those children in the auxiliary combat department are not material for conscious confrontation at all. Not to mention the half-moon level resonance, 99% of them can't even use their own mechas. If you can't get it together, you can't even reach the 5th level of consciousness, let alone the resonance level. The vast majority of pilot trainees work to make money after graduation so that they can create their own machines and resonate with them. I am the recommender, but the 5.5-month level is not that easy to find. Onsidon smiled bitterly and spread his hands. I can count the number of people in the academy who have reached the half-month level. They are either out on missions or not in the academy. Where do you want me to find them? Anyway, the principal has put down his words. Each department must select 2 people. The older generation of students cannot do it. After all, this Liana is also a new student and the best genius in the 5th year of Maria College. If we send out the old students, it's useless even if they win, the standing teacher said helplessly. That's what you said. Ansidon was helpless and rubbed his forehead. Half-month level students are not even old people, how can they be so easy to find? In fact, both of them knew very well that in the entire black market, they could count the number of people who had reached the half-moon level. After the 3 UN and 1 star were Blanding, Phyla, and others. Of course, these have graduated. And if you are looking for active duty, there are only 3 people, Metro, Kafi, and Nanlissus, but these 3 are actually considered old people, and they only stayed on the list for special reasons. I have a headache. Have the 3 major factions in the inner court responded? He raised his head and asked. There must be no movement among the 3 major factions of the Black Star faction. The Black Rain faction headed by Metro and others should send future reserve Black Rain department generals to take action. It just depends on which person is sent, the man sighed and replied. In fact, both of them know that there are only a few people who have reached the 5.5 moon level in the Black Disk. Under the Black Star, they are Metro, Kafi, Nanlissus, and then Blanding, Phyla, Leela, and so on. People are the top pillars of the Black Disk. The 4 people in front are what the outside world calls Sanyu and 1 star, and the 3 people behind are the targets pursued by countless students in the inner courtyard. Those who are above level 5.5 moon are these. Where did this Liana come from? Why have I never heard of her fame before? Onsidon fell into thinking. Forget it, someone has informed Branding. The teacher standing next to him frowned. At this time, he raised his hand and looked at his watch, which already showed clear information. Inform Branding? Isn't she on vacation in the South China Sea? It's impossible to get the news right away in such a short time. Onsidon frowned. It was intentional. It should be aimed at her alone. Onsidon nodded. Both of them felt a premeditated aura permeate the air. This is troublesome. Blue Narcissus has never been known for its fighting prowess, Onsidon whispered. The 2 stood up and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows. From a distance, they could see shuttle-shaped blue spaceships shooting rapidly from the distant sky towards the entrance of the inner courtyard. Radiation Belt, Flying Ray City. Huge black and gray flying rays slowly floated over the sparse and quiet Flying Ray City. From time to time, these creatures with huge wings like a round fan would make a long and distant roar like a cow. On the huge black tree-shaped mountain peaks like fortresses, the lights of people living there flickered everywhere. The gray-black town below is surrounded by regular green farmland. The farmland sways in the wind, and strange things are planted on it. At the top are fat green maggots, which seem to squirm from time to time. Garen's tattered body flew from a distance, suspended over the town, and slowly fell towards the city gate. Sir, 2 small teams rushed out, and the temperate slaves who received Garen and others last time appeared again. Sir, you are back. Where are the other adults? He stepped forward and bowed respectfully. Don't ask if you shouldn't. Just put a new shell on my mecha. Garen got off the machine and said tiredly. He flew quickly all the way without rest. He also had to be constantly vigilant about the dangers in the surrounding environment. Even he couldn't feeling exhausted. No one is allowed to open the cabin. Otherwise, don't blame me for not warning you if something goes wrong. You can't afford the consequences. Once the cabin is opened and the temperature leaks out, the Zheinenge mine may be in danger of melting. Yes, The temperate slave responded quickly. He waved to the people behind him to find the tractor and drag the machine body into another warehouse maintenance room. Garen is not worried that the cabin of the aircraft inside will be opened or the Zheinange mine will be destroyed. The people here dare not disobey their words. After all, this place is very close to the Black Pan domain, and there are Black Pan pilots patrolling everywhere outside. In addition, the strength gap between the two sides is very large, and Baegwang's people do not dare to go too deep here, so the people here promise that they will never dare to do so without opening the cabin. Under the leadership of the temperate slaves, Garen entered the city again, but this time he did not go to the place of enjoyment. Instead, he arranged a quiet and comfortable place for him to have a good sleep. When he woke up, the little bitch had already come to him, lying naked next to him to rest. Call. Galen sat up immediately. He was so groggy yesterday that he found a place to lie down and sleep. He looked around the room. He saw a white and tidy bedroom. The radiation level was not very high. It was obviously very clean. Everywhere was spotless and as smooth as new. In the white sky outside, there were chirping birds, which were clear and sweet. This was something that could not be heard in the domain, which had long since lost all wild mutant birds. "Are you awake?" The little bitch also woke up and straightened up with sleepy eyes and said obediently. "You sleep in your bed." Garen got off the bed. Because he was still wearing the radiation suit, he didn't need to put on a coat and walked out of the room directly. Outside is a small, square yard with many unknown green plants planted in it, which looks very nice. "Are you awake? Did you sleep well?" Anda was sitting at the small stone table in the middle of the yard, looking at the tablet player in his hand. A TV series was playing on it. A man and a woman were wrapped together and crying like crazy. Apparently one of them scenarios like people suffering from terminal illnesses. Garen walked over and sat next to him, picked up the drink on the table and took a swig of it into the filter pipe of the protective suit. "When did you come back?" "Yesterday. You were more than 2 hours ahead of me." Anda smiled. "I said you are so unkind. You actually left me behind just because you said you would. If I hadn't hidden 2 special skills, I would have been there sooner. I was crippled by that lunatic. Later, when I met 2 perverts, you ran away again. Wouldn't it be great to challenge each other one by one? You see, both of us are still missing arms and legs." Garen smiled. "How was it? How was the harvest?" Anda came closer and said mysteriously. "What's the harvest? Don't get too close, I won't do it." Garen quickly distanced himself. After the experience of life and death together, the two of them got to know each other a lot. "Stop pretending, you boy must have gained more than me," Anda snorted. The calmness and low-pitchedness of this guy at the beginning were completely gone. What was left was that he was extremely thick-skinned. "What are you going to do?" Garen thought for a moment and then asked. "You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 907. Me? Anyway, I don't want to be chased by others anymore. This time I will get my own mecha when I go back. I have found the processing laboratory and most of the materials, and with this harvest, I should be able to get it. A good machine came out," Enda said slightly proudly. Garen also nodded. "This guy is really powerful. If it hadn't been for him, they wouldn't have been able to find the place where the knowledge mine was hidden. Speaking of which, it was only because of Enda's influence that he could get so many good things. Now listening to this guy's tone, it's obvious that this guy is just a treasure hunting dog." Thinking of this, Garen also said seriously, sincerely, "If you need help with a mission like this, just come to me. As long as I can do it, I won't refuse." This immediately earned Enda a burst of contempt. In fact, The reason why the two of them get along so harmoniously is because they both realize that the other person is the same type of person as themselves. He regards life and death as nothing, and his intrinsic will is strong enough, which is beyond the reach of ordinary pilots. To be honest, I am still being hunted by people from my family. You have offended Phyla's group of people again. It seems that those people are related to Begwang now. You are in more trouble than me, Anda sneered. I guess that lunatic came here for you in the end. I was just innocently involved. Forget it, Garen was speechless. To be honest, he didn't want to be hunted down anymore. Now he had so many telepathic minds and blood silver on hand, and the body's main material teacher Phyla had already prepared them for him. He only needs to go back to build most of the main body of the machine. What is still missing is engine technology and skeletal system materials. There is also the construction of biochemical pools for energy mechanics, which happens to be in the radiation belt. As the largest city in the radiation belt, Flying Ray City should be able to find some materials for the construction of biochemical pools, especially the most needed stone heart cells. My body still lacks a suitable sensor system. There is nothing much that can be done here. I plan to go back to the domain directly in the afternoon. What about you? Anda asked. I still lack engine skills and bone materials. I will go to the market here in the afternoon to find some radioactive materials. I also have to deal with some things before going back. There is no rush for now. Garen shook his head. Anda pondered for a moment. We actually failed in this mission, but we are very satisfied with the harvest. Engine technology can be purchased, mainly materials. As for bone materials, I also lack some materials for joints. These things are very rare. I have a way here that should be able to get some things. Let me know when you finish the machine body, and we can make a group purchase together to make it cheaper. You can also buy in groups. Garen was speechless. As the elites of the inner court, they can all trade materials, items, and technologies from their teachers. Things that are difficult for even them to get are naturally very difficult for the outer court or the outside world. Now this guy Anda actually dared to talk about group buying, as if there were a lot of them. That's it, it's settled. This is my secret connection password. Please contact me if you have any questions. Anda exchanged the contact information of the watch with Garen. The two of them got up. Watching Anda leave quickly, Garen slowly breathed a sigh of relief. Although the mission was not successful, it achieved its goal in disguise. The blood silver and so many G energy mines were enough for him to make it costs a lot of money to build a biochemical pool for energy masters. There happens to be a lot of radiation materials here, so it should be able to produce a good quality. This time when I went out to look for blood silver, I encountered such troublesome things. The outside was obviously getting more and more chaotic. The friction between domains was getting more and more intense. Even fifth-level masters like them were almost if you can't come back. No wonder no one wants to come out of the radiation belt. As soon as this idea flashed, Garen heard the sound of the engine of the aircraft passing overhead, slowly flying towards a landing point in the Flying Ray City. They were 3 black aircraft, with clear markings on the aircraft showing that there were the logo of Black Pan is not from Black Pan College, but from another college. It has a big white V on it. 3 white V mechas slowly landed on the ground. Each mecha held a blue triangular shield and carried a snow-white giant sword on its back, in the style of a sword and shield melee mecha. This is Flying Ray City. You two must be careful when you go out. Do you hear me? The leader of the mechas said coldly, and there was actually a young girl inside. I know, Sister X2. The other 2 mechas quickly responded. The personnel from Flying Ray City also came forward at this time and began to wash the 3 mechas to eliminate excessive radiation, and at the same time painted some worn areas. The cabins of the 3 aircrafts were opened, and 2 men and 1 woman came out. They were all wearing blue and white striped radiation protection suits. The masks were completely transparent and looked more like space suits. You could see the heads of the people inside. Face. Master Wuxi, welcome to Feiyu City again. A fat man with a cheerful smile almost rolled over and ran over to the woman and knelt down in front of the woman. That's enough. I'm not in the mood to be polite to you. Please arrange a room for us to rest, the woman leading the group replied coldly. Yes, yes, yes. Wei 11 and the other three turned around to leave, but they happened to see a black machine parked in the open space not far away. The shape of the machine was completely indistinguishable, and the entire shell seemed to have been completely destroyed by something strongly corrosive. If it weren't for the fact that I could barely see that it was a mecha with a black plate, it would probably be qualified to be used as junk. You actually have the nerve to repair such a shabby garbage machine? Is it funny? The woman said contemptuously, then turned and walked towards the hangar exit. Yes, yes, my lord is right, the little fat man responded repeatedly. Sister, wait a minute, a young-looking young man among the three people suddenly called out to Wei 11, who was leading the team. When he turned back inadvertently, he saw that the skeleton material faintly exposed on the broken machine seemed to be stronger than theirs. The body materials are even better. What's the matter? Wei 11 turned around impatiently. The young man pointed at the broken body, a hint of surprise flashing in his eyes. Sister, the skeletal system of that mecha. His voice was very low. He took the initiative to point out, and the other two people immediately noticed something strange. The material of the skeletal system of that tattered black machine was actually much more advanced than theirs. That pure silvery white with a hint of blue is obviously the luster of the expensive blue bone glue coating. This kind of bone glue coating can only be seen on medium-sized or above standard mechas. Generally, it is difficult to buy such body materials on the market. It is impossible to even think about it without the connection with Tongtian. Wei 11 also noticed the abnormality of this machine and his pupils turned slightly. That broken machine seems to be the bad machine we dragged back last time. Why is it here? She whispered. The little fat man didn't know what was going on. He and the temperate slave were completely responsible for each other. They usually didn't have a good relationship, and the two parties couldn't communicate at all. The little one is not very clear either. I'm going to check it out. Thank you for helping me keep the garbage body we dragged back. It just so happened that I came to haul it away this time. Wuxi showed a satisfied smile. I will faithfully transfer the technology you want to me. You. The three of them walked towards the black tattered body. As they got closer, the three of them faintly discovered that the materials used in this tattered body were as good as those of the military, whether it was the bones or the consciousness transmission conduit inside, or the various parts of which are assembled into sensors, etc., all of them are selected. The more Wuxi looked at it, the more satisfied he became. Someone is coming. She yelled. Zay zay zay. The little fat man and several other maintenance personnel ran over quickly. Remove these sensors and consciousness transmission tubes here and install them on our body. I didn't expect that the garbage dragged back last time would actually have such good parts, Wuxi said with satisfaction. Soon, several maintenance personnel went up to disassemble some parts from the black body and installed them on the blue body. I'll go up and take a look first. The young boy next to her jumped up, stood on the elevator platform, and was lifted up by the elevator platform to the entrance and exit of the cabin. Open the cabin, Wuxi waved his hand. Sister, there's something weird inside. The cabin is full of air conditioning, the boy said loudly. Huh, Wei 11 frowned slightly. She also walked forward and jumped up. She actually jumped several meters high and landed on the lift platform to look through the transparent shell on the surface of the cabin. A subordinate next to the little fat man whispered in his ear. Boss, this machine was dragged here by the temperate slave just now. He ordered that the cabin must not be opened. Do you want to explain it to him? Excuse me. Leave him alone. Do everything according to Master Wixi's instructions. If you make her unhappy, you know the consequences." The little fat man looked gloomy. But the subordinate wanted to say something else, but was interrupted by the little fat man. "Now you run to find the temperate slave. How long will it take to go back and forth? 10 minutes? 20 minutes? Even if you ask him to come over through the communicator, if this guy doesn't understand that promotion is wrong, you can afford it and cause trouble." The little fat man sneered. The subordinates were so frightened that they were sweating all over and nodded repeatedly. "You have to understand that Lord Wixi is a distinguished guest that the city lord has valued many times. You must not neglect him." At this time, Wei 11 and the others had already stood in the cockpit to watch. Wixi's expression became more and more frightened. Through the glass and the vague white cold air, she could vaguely see densely packed blue-white metal blocks stacked inside. These metal blocks were as bright as new and looked like they were collectively processed and pressed by some factory machine tool. Is this, she suddenly felt as if she had been hit hard by a huge piece of pie falling from the sky. A huge sense of happiness welling up from deep within my heart can't be suppressed. Yes, that is Haininge mine. It is rumored that only inherited pilots are qualified to use the Jineng mine. One piece can easily be sold for tens of millions. Wixi confirmed her identification again and again. An uncontrollable ecstasy in her heart made her face become a little distorted. It was a strange expression formed by forcibly suppressing her facial expression and conflicting with the ecstasy in her heart. "Let's go. We must drive back to the territory immediately." A crazy thought suddenly rushed into her consciousness. "As long as I get this wealth, I will have enough food and clothing for the rest of my life. I can't even count the money." Wei 11's whole body started to tremble slightly. Such a large amount of wealth must be obtained immediately, leaving everything behind. All other things are not as important as this. At this moment, Wixi has only one thought in his mind. Open the machine and leave immediately. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 908. What? Someone is touching Lord Garen's mecha. In a tavern somewhere in Flying Ray City, the temperate slave pushed away the beautiful woman next to him. His face changed wildly, and he stood up suddenly. He looked at the subordinate in front of him who was communicating with him. "Didn't I tell you never to let anyone know that Master Garen's body is under maintenance?" The temperate slave felt a cold rush to his forehead, and a thin layer of cold sweat immediately broke out on his vest. The look on Lord Garen's face when he told him made him understand the importance of that mecha to that lord. That is a machine that the elite pilots of Black Pen Academy value so much. If something happens, even 10,000 of his lives won't be enough to compensate Lord Garen. The temperate slave was so frightened that his subordinates also turned pale. He did not expect the consequences to be so serious. Looking at the temperate slave, it looked like the sky was about to fall. The temperate slave walked back and forth in the corner of the tavern several times. "Notify the city lord immediately. I will mobilize all the micro-mecha teams." Making a decisive decision, he immediately ordered his subordinates to contact the top leadership of Feiyo City. "But, there is Mr. Wixi over there." "But what a fart!" The temperate slave kicked his subordinate hard. "If you piss that guy off, Wixi will die too." He roared loudly, quickly ran out of the tavern, and bolted towards Garen's residence. Garen was quietly practicing a set of secret martial arts skills in the yard. They were ordinary and looked like ordinary health-preserving skills. However, as he moved slowly, there was a faint flow around him. The wind is getting faster and faster. There is peace in the peaceful Flying Ray City. The people here are very satisfied in this radiation belt just because they have enough food. What they pursue is the yearning for the people in the area. But because of their own radiation scars, they will never be able to return to the domain again in their lifetime. The only possible exceptions are their children. there is a certain chance that children born between people exposed to radiation will be born without any radiation sickness. Because these babies have parents who are radiation patients, they seem to produce certain antibodies, resulting in the occasional children being immune to certain types of radiation sickness. The biggest hope of these parents is that if these people from the domain can be selected, their children will soar to the sky and become high-ranking people from the domain. Therefore, outside the courtyard where Garen was located, even though it was blocked by the guards, many people gathered unconsciously. Most of them were young parents with their children. Some of the children seemed to have just been born, and some were how old is it? Even boys and girls aged 11 or 12 were brought in. Miraculously, there were no traces of radiation sickness on their bodies. These people looked eagerly at Garen in the hospital, hoping that he would fall in love with their children. They must know that among the radiation people, there may be people who are immune to radiation sickness. Generally, their qualifications are pretty good, and they can have good abilities in practicing consciousness. Progress. However, even so, radioactive people are naturally excluded, and those who are qualified to bring radioactive people into the domain are all pilots with strong backgrounds. Therefore, the last time Garen and others came, these people did not gather in large numbers. But this time it was different. Last time, the identities of Garen and others had already been found out by these people from the guards. The elite of the inner court of Black Pen Academy. The name Black Pen Academy already makes people's hearts tremble. 99% of the students who enter here are powerful and wealthy children. They have a strong background and power, and they are also pilots. Although everyone I don't even understand what the inner court means, but I still understand what the elite means. As a top aristocratic pilot with a noble status, everyone unknowingly attached this impression to Garen. My lord. My lord. At this moment, there were guards riding horses like black creatures in the distance outside, rushing towards them, rushing through the crowds on the street without any hesitation, and shouting wildly and loudly. The door in the courtyard where Garen is located is open. He really has the intention to select a few of these children to bring into the domain. He has seen several geniuses who are very good at practicing secret martial arts, but they are buried here. He was unknown, and even learned from the guards that he was over 10 years old, but he had been rejected from the only 2 previous pilot selections. What a pity. The most important thing is that the children here have a lot of experience and are very sensible. Even if they are young, they are very observant and know a lot about people and the world. If you bring them in, they can be used as adults. For him who currently has too few confidants to cultivate, he can just serve as a subordinate. At this time, when he heard the guards outside rushing over, Garen frowned and raised his head, stopping the punch in his hands. What's up? The guard rolled down panting, rushed to Garen, and whispered a few words. After just a few words, Garen's expression suddenly changed. Go. Take me. He grabbed the guards and strode out of the yard. Inside the maintenance shop hangar. At this time, Waxi had people begin to tie the entire black mecha to her body. The cockpit inside the black mecha was covered in low-temperature cold air. Her physique could not bear it for long, but once the Zheinenge mine was cooled down, it is likely to release high heat and directly melt and depreciate the value. In order to avoid accidents, Waxi simply tied the black mecha to his own mecha. At this time, she was constantly instructing the workers operating the semi-automatic robotic arms to tie the 2 mechas tightly to death. Soon the 2 mechas were completely tied together. Leave here immediately, Wei 11 winked at his 2 companions. Both of them couldn't help but smile crookedly. After knowing that there were so many Jineng mines, they both felt that the whole world was shaking, and they were almost knocked unconscious by this huge pie falling from the sky. It took a long time to barely react. The 3 of them quickly separated and ran towards their mecha lifting platform. The little fat man and others stood around nervously, not allowing anyone to enter. This is Wixi's order. Etc. Suddenly a loud roar came from the entrance and exit of the hangar. At the entrance and exit of the underground hangar slope, the temperate slave ran wildly into the hangar, almost unsteady, fell to the ground, and then quickly stood up and rushed in the direction of Wixi and the others. Lord Wixi! That mecha can't move, he shouted while running, his voice was hoarse, as if he was dead. Huh? Can't move, Wei 11's heart trembled. That's the adult mecha from Black Pan Academy. Don't move. Otherwise our entire flying ray city will suffer, the temperate slave yelled as he ran. A mecha from Black Pan Academy, Wei 11 was shocked. Her academy ranked 3rd. Naturally, she knew how terrifying Black Pan Academy was in the domain. If there were 100 top pilots in the domain, if they exist, then 80 of them must be black discs. What should I do, sister? The little boy was also a little panicked. If he was immersed in ecstasy just now, now he is completely panicked. He dared to snatch the body of a big figure from the Black Pan Academy. Needless to say, in the Black Pan domain, it is definitely a capital crime. Bullshit, Black Pan's body. You're trying to bluff me. There's no door. Drive away, Wixi suddenly yelled. How could it be such a coincidence? When we came out, the pilot of Black Pan's body also came to repair it. You may not encounter many pilots in Flying Ray City all year round. It must be a lie. She turned around and rushed towards the cockpit of the aircraft faster. As long as she rushed into the cockpit and activated the mecha, with the speed of her 4th level mecha, even a 5th level pilot would not be able to catch up with her own speed. Without a mecha, no other machine, the speed of the pilot and the speed of the mecha at the same level are different by countless times. The other 2 people also came to their senses. With this money, even if they couldn't get away from the Black Pan territory, they could still live a very comfortable life in the Maria territory or the Luoyang territory. You don't have to worry about whether it's on a black disc. The 3 of them ran faster after hearing the temperate slave's words. The temperate slave was in tears at the back. He originally didn't tell anyone about Garan-sama's machine to be repaired, just to keep it a little more secret. This was also Lord Garen's order, but he didn't expect that he would be taken away from the academy. Wixi and his party became interested in making money. This is simply a disaster. He originally thought that shouting the name of Lord Blackpan would make the 3 of them stop, but he didn't expect that the other party would be faster and more decisive. Obviously he planned to grab the things and run away. Seeing that the 3 of them were about to ascend and descend the platform, the temperate slave knew that the time for him to make a decision had finally come. To be able to make these 3 adult pilots so greedy and desperate for property, needless to say, the 18 generations of his family would definitely be sold. Can't afford to pay. As for a person with such financial strength, it goes without saying that his status is definitely much nobler than that of the city lord. If the other party really robs the things, not only will his whole family be killed, but all the people here may be implicated by the city lord and exterminated. Don't let them run away. Otherwise we will all be exterminated, he roared, immediately waking up all the maintenance workers, the little fat man and others here. The little fat man on the side finally reacted, his lips trembled, and he opened his mouth to say something, but he felt his heart beating so hard that he couldn't say anything. Shot. A cold snort suddenly entered the hangar. Tisk tisk tisk. Several consecutive green rays were aimed at the 3 people who were still running towards the cabin elevator, but one of the 3 people condensed his eyes and actually condensed 3 small blue triangular shields in mid-air to block the rays, completely knocking the rays away. Shoot, 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 the little fat man finally reacted and roared loudly. Knowing that he had gotten into a big trouble, his whole face began to turn blue, and sweat flowed down his neck and chin like a stream. Suddenly, a large number of engineering ray guns for maintenance were fired at the 3 people. Unfortunately, These rays were not very powerful because they were all engineering guns and their range was too short. Only a few came into close contact with the three of them, but they were all blocked by the small shields behind them. At this time, the three people also got into the cabin, and all the lids snapped down. "Let's go," Wuxi shouted. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 909. The three machines suddenly jumped into the air, and thick blue flames of more than 1 meter shot up from behind. They immediately tore off a large number of fixed thick ropes that were still tied to the machines. The thick black ropes were whipped up by the huge momentum, like whips. It is usually used on two people, and the two people will be beaten until their orifices bleed, and then they will be slammed to the wall and the floor, and they will immediately run out of breath. The zenith above the hangar was forced open by the mecha, and the three mechas collided and flew out. Garen, who had just run to the hangar at this time, narrowed his eyes and stared at the aircraft in the middle of the takeoff. It was his black aircraft that was tied to the back. A quick glance. Aha! He suddenly jumped out with a series of spins and somersaults. His body actually left a few after images on the ground, and in just an instant he rushed to a thick black metal block over 1 meter high. "Rise!" He roared low, picked up the metal piece like pulling up a willow, and then his body suddenly spun like a high-speed top. Amidst the whistling wind, the metal block brought a terrifying scream into the air. The ear-piercing noise made everyone in the hangar feel sharp pain in their ears. The spinning top suddenly stopped. Boom! The sharp end of the black metal block was shot out with great Gallian force, like a terrifying and powerful electromagnetic gun, shooting straight towards the turning blue body in the air. Clang! Just a muffled sound. The metal block did not penetrate the powerful armor of the machine body, but was simply bounced away. Idiot, Wei 11 inside the machine was shocked first, but now that he saw this scene, his heart suddenly relaxed. Just when everyone below was disappointed, something happened. The black body tied behind Wei 11's body suddenly slipped and fell down from her back. It turned out that the black metal band binding it was broken directly by the metal block. Garen's expression remained unchanged as he looked at the black machine body falling from the sky. He quickly retreated and gave way to some distance for the mecha to land. With a roar, the black mecha first hit the edge of the exit at the top of the hangar, and then rolled down from the gap, rolling down towards everyone. Bang! The little fat man and others didn't even have time to react before they were crushed to pieces by the huge machine, leaving only puddles of flesh and blood on the ground. Blood energy continued to flow out from under the black mecha. Garen had no expression on his face, and without even looking at the blood at his feet, he walked forward slowly and got into the cabin a few times. Wei 11 in the sky was completely stunned when she saw this scene. Not only her, but also the two companions beside her were also stunned. With the power of his body, he could hit a piece of metal weighing hundreds of kilograms so accurately, and it just happened to break the metal belt binding the machine body. Indeed, after continuous tempering, the outer armor of the mecha has long been hardened and tougher than ordinary metal. But the metal straps found in a hurry here are far less hard than the outer armor of the mecha. Buzz! The eyes of the black mecha on the ground suddenly lit up. A powerful and terrifying aura spread out, and the fifth-level pilot's consciousness amplification field was directly deployed. The black mecha put its hands on the ground and suddenly bounced up. The engine behind it released blue flames and rushed into the sky for the three of them. Level 5-5 pilot, a trace of fear appeared in Wuxi's eyes. Run! She roared, without any intention of resisting. She directly sprayed the maximum engine and flew towards the distance. The pilot's qualifications are also limited. What the qualifications determine is not only the speed of practicing the training method, but more importantly, the upper limit of the training method. General qualifications and consciousness have their own upper limit. Even if you persist in practicing for a lifetime, you can only reach a certain limit at most, which is level 4. Only outstanding pilots can reach level 5 in their lifetime. Level 5, which in other colleges are mentor-level instructors and professor-level pilots. Waxi himself is one of the most outstanding people in V Academy, so he naturally understands what a 5th-level pilot represents. A pilot's qualifications are due to his innate physical limitations. The body is like a fixed basin, and the amount of water it can hold is fixed from birth. Normal people have level 4 qualifications, but only the best can reach level 5. Level 5 pilots are not in contact with the same world as ordinary people. What they pursue is not money, but truly ethereal resonance pilots and heritage pilots. Because the limit of the human body is level 5, only by generating resonance with a unique mecha and gradually transforming one's own qualifications can one go further. Waxi has just barely entered the early stage of level 4. He is now 30 years old and is about to graduate from the academy. If he does not earn more extra money and deposits for himself, he will not be able to enter and exit the radiation belt in the name of the academy after leaving the academy, and he will also lose. This is a dangerous but profitable way to make money. However, the current changes and everything were completely unexpected to her. Without saying a word, the 3 mechas flew towards the distance with full power. 1 at level 4 and 2 at level 3. This kind of trash actually dares to touch my mecha. Garen sat in the machine, his consciousness twitching. The explosive power of Painting's claws exploded suddenly, and a circle of white air ripples bloomed from behind the machine body, spreading slowly. Compared with short-distance explosive power, Painting Talon is enough to compare with those good and excellent training methods. The black body brings out a black line, and the speed of the body itself is 1 level better than the ordinary standard mecha of 3 people. The mechas of the 3 people are all brand name mechas that can be purchased on the market, that is, the famous brand mechas on battle.net. They are civilian technologies and are far inferior to the military's black panel captain level mechas. Not to mention that Gallon itself has the ability to accelerate flight. I saw the Galleon machine shooting out like lightning, with its arms spread out like a black rock, grabbing the neck of the Waxi machine. The black shadow flashed, and he actually jammed the necks of all 3 mechas with one arm. Spinning in a circle and bringing up strong winds, it hit the ground hard. Bang! Boom! The 3 machines overlapped on his single arm, stacked together like slices of bread, and were smashed to the ground, causing the entire flying ray city to shake slightly. One of the mechas couldn't withstand the huge impact and exploded directly. The flames and debris of the explosion made the other 2 mecha pilots who were close together scream in terror. Both machines suffered huge damage due to being too close, and the upper and lower parts of the machine were scorched and damaged. "Don't kill me. Don't. Please," Waxi's terrified and trembling cries came from the cabin. This woman is about to collapse. Her momentary greed has caused endless regret in her heart. Countless times, she was careful and cautious, and it was only because of her caution that she avoided disaster. She never thought that just such a greed would cause such horrific consequences. Garen directly pulled out the long sword from the waist of the opponent's mecha, scoff. A sword pierced the cockpit of another mecha next to it. There was a slight groan from inside, and then blood flowed out along the other side where the sword penetrated, and bursts of fishy smell evaporated from the shell of the machine that had been turned to high temperature by explosions and flames, making a hissing sound like water vapor. Garen ripped off his own sensors on the Waxi mecha, as well as the scabbard and other things he needed, but showed no response to his pleas. "Wait until everything you need is unloaded." With a flash of sword light, the long sword in his hand directly cut off all the limbs of the blue machine. The hard mecha armor and his sword were no different from tofu. This was not only the difference between the machines, it was just an ordinary standard long sword has become a magic weapon in Garen's hands. This is also the understanding of the gaps in the body itself. Cutting along the gaps in the body can have the effect of a cook and a cow. No, Waxi seemed to feel the last moment, and his body struggled violently. "Laugh. The tip of the sword instantly pierced the cockpit without any hindrance. The voice suddenly dimmed. Garen stood up and put away the blue sword in his hand. It happened that his two swords were corroded, and now he had another weapon that he could use. Uncovering the cockpit, he began to examine the bodies of the pilots inside the two aircrafts. The remaining two people were completely changed beyond recognition due to the explosion of the machine, and there was nothing left on them. The other man was extremely poor and had nothing of value at all. On the other hand, an 8th grade student ID card from V Academy and a silver-white ID card were found on Wixi's body. I took it to my computer and read it, and it turned out that the identity certificate belonged to the Nam family. How dare a small family dare to take advantage of their wealth, Garen said speechlessly. After driving the machine body back to the hangar, all the hangar staff had gathered below. The temperate slave and a group of people were kneeling there, with their heads lowered and not daring to move. There were several pieces of metal falling and flying around, with bloodstains on the edges, and the temperate slaves and others also had traces of bloodstains and wounds on their heads and backs. It was obvious that the fragments just fell and hit the temperate slaves and others, causing injuries. The others gathered on the other side, looking bewildered. Find all the people who assisted these three pilots just now and deal with them. Garen said a word, and the pilot body slowly came down, walked out of the cabin, jumped lightly, landed, and walked out of the hangar. Lee ignored the kneeling people. This move made the temperate slaves and others finally heave a sigh of relief. In the radiation belt, the most valuable thing is human life. They originally thought that they were dead, but they didn't expect that Garen didn't kill them after all. If it were other people in the radiation belt, they would be executed immediately because they failed in the important mission they were responsible for, and there would be too many people implicated in the genocide. Outside, there are many people who want to join Flying Ray City. Not long after Garen walked out of the hangar, there were bursts of screams and begging for mercy before death. Unexpectedly, when he just returned to his small courtyard, he saw many people surrounding the courtyard, all staring at a figure wearing a black cloak in his courtyard. All the radioactive people only dared to stay outside the courtyard gate, but this man actually dared to stand arrogantly in the middle of the courtyard, as if waiting for him to come back. As if he noticed his sight, the man turned around, revealing a face wearing a silver mask. I've been waiting for you for a long time. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 910. Wait for me? Garen was stunned. He had not left the Black Disk territory for a long time, and he had gone out under absolute confidentiality. Besides, no one knew the route and time of his return. How did this person find his way here? A trace of doubt flashed through his mind, and Garen separated from the crowd and walked over. Who are you? The black cloak let out a chuckle. A few days ago, we found a supernatural reaction in an area somewhere here. The purple lips exposed under his cloak did not move, but the sound reached Garen's ears perfectly. Garen noticed that the crowd around him didn't pay any attention. Apparently no one heard this man's words. Let's talk after we go in. He strode towards the inside of his yard, and with a wave of his backhand, the yard door was closed directly, blocking the view of outsiders. As for the matter of my mecha, the accident just now is just a minor matter. It would be good to have a few people here all year round. Not many pilots in the area are willing to take the risk of contracting radiation sickness and come here to take risks. Most pilots you can definitely do other tasks to make money, it just takes a little longer, but the advantage is safety. Like the previous incident where the Zhaininj mine was almost robbed, the chance is 1 in 1,000. Garen didn't have to worry, his cabin was all locked, and no one could open the cabin door unless he was a senior decryption talent. Unless his entire mecha is dragged away, This is the territory patrolled by his teacher, the Black Annihilation faction. Even if he runs out, he can always contact the patrolling experts to bring him back. Even Baiguang's people don't dare to run wild within a radius of 10,000 meters. No need, just stay here. The man raised his arm, and a black shadow accurately shot out, falling in front of Garen, and was pinched by him. Garen took a closer look, and saw a dark metal key in his hand. It was simple and old, and looked like an ordinary key that had been used for a long time. However, there were very few serrations on the side of the key, and there was only a single sharp tooth. This is one of the status of an energy master. If you successfully become a first-level energy master, you are qualified to enter the energy market for trading, the man in black cloak said in a low voice. Energy mechanic, Garen's heart trembled. He had never told anyone about breaking through the consciousness of a first-level mechanic. He didn't expect that the other party would find him directly and pass on this so-called key. Who are you? He asked with narrowed eyes. The Energy Mechanic Alliance. You will understand when you enter the market, but please don't tell me about the position of the energy market, although the market will shift every once in a while. The man in the black cloak chuckled. Okay, young man, goodbye, little one. He waved his cloak, turned around and walked directly to the small garden in the yard. As he walked among the flowers, his body became lighter and lighter, more and more transparent, until he completely disappeared. What kind of method is this? Garen was shocked. Even the totem world of secret martial arts has never seen this method. But then I thought about it, this is the era of science and technology in the universe, and any kind of technology may appear. It may be invisibility or other powerful technologies. Energy market. Holding the key in his hand, Garen felt for the first time that the world was not as simple as he imagined. The pilot may be just one part of the equation. He carefully put away the key. Anyway, the other party didn't seem to have any malicious intent, and Garen didn't pay much attention to it. Several days passed after Way 11 and other people from V Academy were killed. Garen has been staying in Flying Ray City waiting for the troops sent by the City Lord to search for Klin and others to come back. At the same time, he is also collecting materials for making biochemical pools in Flying Ray City. It wasn't until the 7th day that the searching team finally returned, bringing some not-so-good news to Garen. The whereabouts of Klin and others have indeed been found, but they seem to be being pursued by Baiguang's people. Pursued? Garen was sitting in his yard, pausing slightly while flipping through an old book. What is the strength of the people who are chasing them? The temperate slave who reported the report still had white gauze on his face and bent down to answer. We don't know the specific strength, but after observing from a distance, there are at least level 3 elite mechas inside. It seems that there are also glory mechas involved. Oh, Garen was stunned. The glory mecha was at the level of the red and white he killed last time in the domain. It was level 5. It also relied on special machine abilities and was very powerful. Of course, the glory mecha was not all of them. They are all only at level 5, and there will definitely be masters with resonance among them. But what surprised him was that the resonance could only be stimulated by his own unique mecha, and how exactly was the glorious mecha coordinated and stimulated? Maybe it was sent over so that people could adapt to the body? What about those people who were being hunted? I don't know, but the glory mecha is wandering around. It should be searching on a large scale, and it is very likely that it has not been found at all. Our people don't dare to get too close, otherwise they will be killed by the opponent in an instant. Temperate slave low answered in a voice. Garen gently put down the book in his hand and began to think quietly. He wanted to make sure that Burin was fine before he could bring good news back to his family. After all, it might take some time for him to come out this time, because he needed to build his own unique mecha body. Although he had not yet found all the materials, however, some less important parts should be available for purchase through general points. No. Suddenly a voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Red Moon, Garen reacted immediately and waved his hand to make the temperate slave in front of him retreat. At the same time, he threw the technical information needed by the city lord and asked him to take it away as a reward for his search for biochemical pool materials these days. After the temperate slaves completely left the yard and closed the door, Garen let the little bitch sit in his arms, stretched out his hand to caress it casually, and communicated with Chayu in his mind. "Yes, it's me. The signal is finally clear, but the radiation interference is too great." Chayu breathed a sigh of relief. "It seems that you should be very close to us. You must come here to save people immediately. Rescue. Klin is about to die. Xiaolun is about to lose his hold. If you don't come, they will all die," Chayu said briefly. "What's going on? How long can we hold on?" Garen's eyes became solemn. "Within 3 days, if you don't come, there is really no hope. I can only cover them for 3 days at most. The energy is almost used up," Chiyu said helplessly. "Xiaolun got radiation sickness. He is very serious and his whole body is exhausted. The whole person has become extremely thin. Klin was also seriously injured, and the wound was seriously infected. In order to get Xiaolun medicine to delay radiation sickness, well, you will know when you come." The specific location. There was a hint of confusion in Garen's tone. One of the purposes of coming out this time was finally achieved. "As long as you don't die, that's fine. With today's scientific and technological medical methods, you can save your life as long as you don't die. I'll point you in the direction. It's not far from the Flying Ray City. Be careful of the White Light's glorious mecha. They've mobilized a lot of elites to find the core," Chayu said in a deep voice. "Don't bring anyone here, we are in danger now. Whether it is White Light or people from other domains, they want to find us." After disconnecting, Garen clearly felt that Chayu's consciousness was quickly leaving. Pushing the little bitch away, he stood up, opened the door, and gave instructions to the 2 guards guarding the place. "Prepare wound medicine and anti-radiation medicine for me. 2 standard portions." "It's your lord." The 2 guards looked at each other, and one of them hurriedly ran to the doctor's office in the city. Anyway, all of this lord's expenses were reimbursed by the city lord's palace, so he could just record them directly. Soon, 2 standard medical bags were placed in front of Galen. The small white square bags contained anti-inflammatory drugs, a large amount of anti-radiation drugs, sterilizing water, gauze tape for bandaging, as well as recommended blood test equipment and some drugs for oral administration. "Wait." After checking, Garen directly picked up and walked towards the outside of Feo City alone. Hundreds of kilometers away from Feo City, underground, in a quietly hidden small cave. Klin struggled to hold Xiaolun's body and walked deeper into the cave little by little. He found the anti-radiation medicine, but the amount that the glory mecha carried with him was too little. Although it was stolen by Chiyu, the amount of medicine was only enough for prevention and relief. For Xiaolun's situation, it was simply a drop in the bucket. After the 2 miraculously stole the medicine from the glory mecha, at the moment of exhaustion, they finally managed to jump one last time and escaped. "We're almost there," just ahead deep in the cave in front of Klin, a dark-skinned girl with many black pigtails was walking. She was holding a torch. There was an obvious smell of radiation sickness on her body, and the hissing torch her thin and slender figure and face were reflected in the sound of burning. It was this girl who saved Klin when he was unconscious and prevented them from being found by the White Light Patrol and search robots. "Laura, how long does it take to arrive?" There was no trace of blood on Klin's face, his lips were chapped, and the skin all over his body seemed to have been soaked in water. It was white and blistered, and he felt bloated. His whole body had gained weight. Big circle. In some places, there was even a swollen purple color. Come on, we usually live in the underground city. There are all people who can't survive on the ground. They are either wanted criminals or people who are being hunted everywhere and want to resist. The girl turned around and showed her pure white face. Teeth smiled. The power of resistance. What to resist? Clint's voice was a little hoarse and he asked doubtfully. Of course they are the people who brought us to this point. Domains, all major domains, and people from all domains are the objects of our resistance, the girl whispered. Some people call us the Underground Resistance Army. Underground Resistance, this was the first time Clint heard this term. We have been observing you for a long time. The cabin you lived in before was one of our temporary strongholds. Our people originally planned to go there to rest, but we didn't expect to find you two there, the girl Laura briefly introduced. Then we found out that you are newcomers who have just come out of the domain. You are being hunted and trapped everywhere, and you don't even have a basic sense of self-protection. You are in a miserable state, even our children are better than you. Clint was speechless by what the girl Laura said, and his cheeks turned red with embarrassment. Vomit. Suddenly, his throat suddenly felt itchy, and he spat out a large mouthful of blood. In the purple blood, tiny black bugs could be vaguely seen crawling inside. When Clint saw that there were bugs in his blood, his heart was so frightened that he stood there with a defeated face. Uncle, how long can I live? He asked tremblingly in his heart. 3 hours if everything goes well. Chi-Yu was silent for a moment and replied in a low voice. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 911. This is Bloodworm. Laura heard the noise in front, turned around and saw Clint vomiting blood, and was shocked. She looked down and saw that there were worms in the blood, and she was so frightened that she quickly took a step back. You. She raised her head and looked at Clint in horror, and the withered human body he was holding next to him that looked more like a corpse. After being parasitized by blood filarial worms, a person cannot survive more than 5 hours. This is common knowledge in the radiation belts. Thinking of this, Laura looked at the defeated young man in front of her, and felt a sense of sadness in her heart. Looks like I'm about to die. Clint sat down on the ground and didn't bother to hurry. You are going to die anyway, whether you hurry or not is the outcome. I'll get you some medicine. There's a cure for blood filariasis. Laura gritted her teeth and quickly ran deeper into the cave, but she knew in her heart that it would take at least 6 hours to go back and forth. It was too late, and bloodworm medicine was also extremely expensive in the underground cave resistance. Tell Uncle, maybe there is still a glimmer of hope. Laura made up her mind and quickly quickened her pace and ran deeper into the cave. Clint sat down on the edge of the cave and looked up at the surrounding cave walls. There was a faint green fluorescence on the cave walls, which was the only lighting in the cave. He touched his right rib, and there was still a blood hole the size of a fist. The flesh on the edge was rotten, and there were many tiny blood filarial worms growing there. These small black earthworm-like bugs were constantly burrowing into the flesh. It came and went, but Clint couldn't feel any pain. It was obvious that his nerves had been paralyzed. Following the bloody hole of the wound, he could even reach in and feel his own internal organs. A faint stench kept wafting from his body, and it seemed to be getting stronger and stronger. It's really not possible this time. Clint sat helplessly, with deep fear and panic in his eyes, so that his voice was trembling. Hold on, Chi-Yu encouraged in a low voice, there is still hope. Believe me. I wonder what sister is doing. Clint opened his eyes and stared blankly at the air in front of him, but his consciousness went somewhere. He didn't dare to look at his body, and just looking at him made him want to commit suicide in advance. Xiaolun has been in a coma for a long time. Although she was given radiation medicine, the dose was not enough and her condition was still getting worse. Maybe it won't be long before I die here like him. Time passed by minute by minute. Garen ran quickly on the grassland, wearing a simple micro-mecha. His body was almost floating on the ground. With his footsteps on the ground, he could cover a distance of 7 or 8 meters in one step. It was very scary, almost as if he was walking on the ground. Generally, mechas can fly at low altitudes at about the same speed. Suddenly, he stopped and landed on the edge of a deep pit on the grassland. This deep pit is obviously a residual trace of the bomb explosion, and some fragmentary parts of the black disk body are vaguely visible inside. Apparently there was a conflict between the Black Pen Patrol and the White Light Mechs. Woo! A white mecha flew low in the sky and rushed towards Garen. Without any extra words of questioning, it just slashed horizontally, as if it wanted to cut Garen in two. Court death. Garen raised his head and released a powerful thrust of consciousness. With a coaxing sound, the white mecha fell to the ground, rolled down a few times, and made no movement anymore. An ordinary level 3 mecha, even through the outer armor of the mecha, is far from a match for Garen's single consciousness thrust. Before reaching level 5, even mechas are no match for level 5 pilots at close range. As long as they are caught in action, a conscious thrust within 10 meters can end the battle. Therefore, pilots of level 5 or above are very dangerous, and generally use long-range concentrated strikes. The mecha rolled to the ground. Garen stepped forward and tried hard to open the cabin door, but the door was very solid and he could not flip the switch. He had no choice but to give up and jump off the machine body, quickly heading towards Chiyu. Rush in the direction indicated. Krillin's death will also have a very troublesome impact on him, and he will also suffer a loss of consciousness along with the mark. But fortunately, after he dissipated the nameless consciousness, the only consciousness that this mark could involve was the eagle claw, and it had no impact on the consciousness of the subsequent energy master. Obviously this mark is for the consciousness accumulated in the past, and it cannot affect the part that will be completely rebuilt later. In other words, if I completely cut off the connection with Chiyu and destroy the last layer of Wu Ming's consciousness, then the mark will be destroyed, and the previous level 4 Eagle Talon will also be involved and completely destroyed. Only the only remaining level 1 remains. Garen ran wildly while thinking in his mind. He was not someone who would be controlled by others. For other people, this loss is very big, but for me, it is not a big deal. As long as there is potential, rebuilding is not a big problem. It's just that this connection with the taboo core may still be useful in the future. It would be a pity to cut it off like this. He made up his mind. This mark can be used as the key to contact Chiyu. Klin and his group are not like that. Although it is easy to die, Chiyu, the mysterious taboo core, is definitely not a simple character, and may be of great use in the future. Unknowingly, the place that Chiyu decided on soon gradually appeared in sight. Suddenly, Garen leaped forward and easily hid in a prairie radiation puddle on the edge. He lay down on his back and soaked his whole body in the puddle, covering up the temperature and the color of the micro-mecha. Whoosh whoosh. 3 white light mechs roared past overhead, all holding rifle-like weapons in their hands. There are 2 horizontal lines and 1 horizontal line engraved on their bodies. Judging from the fluctuations in the consciousness of the machines, it is obvious that they are 2 second-level mechas and 1 first-level mecha. When the 3 mechs flew away, Garen jumped up and rushed forward with a splash of water. Soon he escaped several more patrols of white light robots and finally arrived at the location prompted by Chiyu. A camouflaged clay plate was lifted sharply on the ground, revealing the deep black passage below. Garen jumped in and closed the lid with his backhand. As soon as he hid in, Garen felt a large circle of violent and terrifying consciousness shaking explode on the ground outside. The ground seemed to shake violently, like an earthquake. Garen hid underground and did not go down immediately. Instead, he stopped in place and carefully felt the movement outside. Suddenly there was a burst of laughter outside, which seemed to come from a man. Ha 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 ha. Run. I still want to run. You killed the people under my command, but you still dare to run. Boom. Another terrifying shock came, and the ground seemed to be shaking. Garen's whole body tensed up, feeling that someone seemed to be fighting outside. "Kafi! Don't go too far. This is our white light area," another man roared. "So what? I can chase if I want and kill if I want," Kafi snorted coldly, twin-tailed robbery. "Die. You actually broke through the inheritance level." Before he finished speaking, a terrifying violent wave shook the entire ground again. Even Garen, who was hiding underground, felt a numbness in his body. "This is the inheritance level." Garen raised his head, as if he wanted to see the battle outside through the dirt. He noticed this fluctuation. It was the same as the red whale battle he had seen before, and it was actually the same inheritance level. Kafi and Metro are both three-dimensional and one-star beings, and they are so terrifying. Some time ago, there was news that Metro had broken through to the 5th level of Double Moon. After suppressing himself for so long, he finally reached the peak of Double Moon. To think that Kafi, who is also a ternary, has actually broken through the inheritance level. He is indeed the top genius of this era. Garen lamented that the speed of progress of these geniuses is simply terrifying. Some have accumulated a lot of experience, while others are unknown. If he hadn't happened to meet the senior pilot of Kafi vs White Light here, he probably wouldn't have known that Kafi had actually broken through the inheritance level. "Lord Noddington won't let you go. Get out." There seemed to be someone else there, and then there was the weird hissing sound of bursts of beam cannons rubbing against the air. While Kafi was laughing wildly, he seemed to have killed some more white light people, and then the outside became completely quiet, and finally there was the distant sound of mechas flying through the air. Garen also walked slowly and quietly towards the depths of the cave. Unexpectedly, Sanyuan's so-called mission was to come directly to this extraterrestrial battlefield to hone himself. The progress of these geniuses is extremely fast, and it may take less than a few years for a qualitative change to occur. Among the three of Mei Luo, I don't know who else has broken through the inheritance level. Whether they have just broken through or they have broken through long ago and are just hiding. After all, it has been many years since the three of them became Sanyuan. Taking a deep breath and putting these thoughts aside, Garen secretly speeded up. After taking care of these things, go all out to build your own unique mecha. You must reach the resonance level as soon as possible. There are still some potential points, which are enough for the time being. The main thing is to improve your strength first, so that you can have better confidence to compete for resources, and at the same time, you can have better strength to collect new Zion canes. Speeding up, Garen quickly ran towards Chayu's position with the medical bag in hand. The speed is getting faster and faster. Soon a small reddish glowing dot appeared in Garen's field of vision. Klin's haggard and defeated face was facing him crookedly, and he had already passed out. "Hurry. No, Klin is dying. It's blood filaria." Chayu's voice came quickly, but it also seemed very weak. "All the energy I accumulated previously was used to force a jump. It's already I can't support it any longer, and it's all up to you from now on." "Clear." Garen nodded, and the reddish glowing dot finally couldn't hold on anymore and was completely extinguished. Galen opened Klin's eyelids to check, and quickly took off his shirt. He immediately saw the horrific wound, as well as the black worms drilling around the blood vessels near the wound. Snort. Garen stretched out his hand and pressed it on Klin's chest. The secret warrior's advanced skills were activated immediately. The extremely powerful martial arts realm allowed Garen to accurately control the vibrations and kill all the blood filarial worms in Klin's body. This kind of worm was compared to flesh and bones are much fragile, and they will all be killed in a few blows. Galen stretched out his hand and slapped him hard, causing Clinton to move forward and vomit a large mouthful of blood. Wow! The ground was densely covered with insect corpses. A large area of darkness. After tearing off half of the worm from the corner of Klin's mouth, Garen quickly checked his physical condition. He lightly scratched the wound under his ribs with his fingertips, and a large piece of rotten flesh was immediately cut off. As precise and sharp as a scalpel. In the totem world, Garen is a top expert in biochemistry who can perform a heart fusion transplant on himself, let alone such an ordinary emergency surgery. Stop the bleeding by cutting off the pulse, then open the medical bag, take out the medicine, quickly give Colin the medicine to kill the internal parasites, sterilize, suture and bandage the wound. Garen looked at Xiaolun beside him. Bolen's body was so skinny that he looked like a patient with muscular dystrophy who had been ill for a long time. He was slender and fragile, his skin was somewhat transparent, and he was also unconscious. First, she was given 3 consecutive doses of anti-radiation medicine. Then Galen quickly took off her clothes and began to check the most serious concentration of radiation germs in her body. The color of the skin makes it clear which skin has the most radiation germs under it. There were so many radiation germs on Xiaolun's body that even the bloodworms in Klin's body didn't dare to get in. That would be courting death. Large pieces of purple-black skin are like huge moles, one after another. Xiaolun's whole body was shriveled, as if he had been soaked in water for a long time. His skin had no elasticity at all, except for the black moles. It was frighteningly white, and he no longer looked human. Using his fingernails instead of scalpels, he cut off a large piece of Bolen's severely infected skin and covered it with artificial skin. After suturing it, Galen quickly found the blood bag and began to transfuse Bolen's blood. The 2 bags of blood were quickly injected into his body as he accelerated with his fingers. Burin's heart suddenly began to recover as if new vitality had been injected into it. The anti-radiation medicine also worked, and most of the radiation germs began to subside and were killed. Like a miracle, Bolen's body was like an inflated doll. From the emaciated body to the naked eye, he slowly recovered and returned to his original appearance, and the excessive whiteness on his skin completely disappeared. Garen was slightly startled when he saw this scene, and he felt a little unhappy. Some of the emotions coming from Nono Siwa had a bit of an impact on him and made him quarrel. A good brother actually went through sex reassignment surgery on his own and became a sister. After all, Garen's memory of Nono Siwa was still a little worried about his younger siblings. Although he had always looked down on them, they were still his body's only relatives in this world. It's not sex reassignment surgery. No matter how powerful the biomedical technology in this world is, traces can still be found. This cannot be caused by surgery. Garen quickly put on Xiaolun's pants and stood up. Is it the influence of the exercise method? He suddenly thought of a possibility and looked at the 2 people lying on the ground quietly. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 912. Regardless of whether it was due to the influence of exercise or not, it was probably related to Chayu. A flash of realization flashed through Garen's mind. The origin of Chayu, the taboo core, is very mysterious. No one knows how it came to its home planet, or how it got involved with Krillin. Putting these thoughts aside, Garen reviewed the injuries of the 2 people again. Now he faced a question: should he take them back? If you go back to the territory, people suffering from radiation sickness are not allowed to enter the territory at all. This cannot be avoided. Once discovered, they will be executed immediately. Garen knew the regulations in this regard. But if we don't take them back, there will be wars everywhere and safety will be a big problem. With his mind wandering for a while, Garen crouched down. After all, he still did not choose to take the 2 of them away. With Chiyu here, these 2 people should not have much problem. Since they have overcome such a difficult crisis before, maybe in the future at most, it would only be a little bit of hardship. And when he checked just now, he found that the consciousness of both of them had actually broken through to the 2nd level, and the faint 2nd level fluctuation was actually faintly at the 3rd or 4th level of an average pilot, which was simply terrifying. As expected of Chiyu, the taboo core exists. This heaven-defying exercise method, 1 level improvement is equivalent to 2 levels and 3 levels for others. While feeling shocked, Garen carefully left some medicine and necessary supplies for the two of them. Pure drinking water, finally chose to leave. Now staying in the radiation belt, with Chayu taking care of them, may be the biggest test for them. Radiation sickness may affect the human body's immune system, lifespan, and physique, but even so, with Chayu around, hot pot will definitely be possible in 50 or 60 years, and it is not impossible in 70 or 80 years. This guy's methods feel endless. Moreover, it is said that when the pilot's consciousness reaches the inheritance level, his body will be completely reborn, eliminating most of the diseases. After carefully checking the dangerous creatures around him and confirming that there was no danger, Garen chose to leave quietly. At this stage, we cannot have a relationship with Clin and let others know about this relationship. Now Black Pan Domain and White Light are searching for the two of them. The temptation of the taboo core is simply fatal to a pilot force. Garen quickly returned along the original path. He believed that Chayu would handle the situation well. This was the White Light patrol area. If he didn't leave quickly, the battle just now would definitely attract a large number of high-level White Light pilots, and it would be troublesome if he tried to leave by then. Pushing open the mud slab at the entrance of the tunnel, Garen quickly turned over and rushed out, heading towards the road he came from at high speed. The mud slab slowly fell down, and before it was completely in place, his figure had already disappeared at the end of the plane. In the underground passage. Deep in the passage beside the unconscious Clin and Burin, there was a faint sound of footsteps. In the darkness, a middle-aged man with an ordinary face and a brown leather suit slowly walked out, whistling, and suddenly he saw the two Clin lying on the edge of the passage. Huh! With a flash of his eyes immediately focused on Burin, one of the two. With her fair skin, beautiful facial features, and slender waist, she was simply the best girl among women for the radiation people. Gilug. The man swallowed his saliva. He walked over quickly and squatted down. Hey, wake up, he pushed Bulin's arm. No response. Are you still alive? Wake up, he continued to push Clin's arm. Seeing that there was no response from the two of them, the movement in the man's throat became even louder. Snapped. Suddenly something seemed to roll down from Clin's body next to him with his push just now. He moved his eyes away, but could no longer leave. Even the gaze that was previously attracted to Burin seemed to be impossible to return to. The water is actually pure water. It was a large pot of pure water in a transparent glass kettle. With such a clear color and quality, one could tell at a glance that this was at least a high-grade pure water that could only be found at level 2 or above. In the radiation belt, the lower the radiation level of pure water and the better the water quality, the stronger the detoxification effect of radiated people. Real pure water, without radiation, if consumed in large quantities, can eliminate a large amount of radiation viruses from the body of the radiated person and reduce it to the lowest 1% of the radiated constitution. Such a radiated constitution can greatly increase the lifespan. Generally, the constitution of the radiated person is the radiation level is around 50%, which is the balance between the body's immunity and the radiation virus. The lower the radiation level, the lifespan and physical condition will continue to improve. It is said that the top 1% of people with radiation physiques can even live longer than those in the domain. Perhaps the long-term radiation mutation has changed the physique of people outside the domain, making them stronger. As long as they have enough pure water, it transcends the fragile physique of the people in the domain who are like greenhouse flowers. Guru. There was another greedy throat-beating sound, and the middle-aged man stretched out his claws like lightning and grabbed the bottle of pure water. He did not dare to open it hastily for fear of contaminating the water quality. Then he quickly rummaged around Clin and found some anti-inflammatory medicine, radiation protection medicine, and other things left by Galleon. These things are simply expensive items in the radiation zone. The middle-aged man who quickly put away the things could not suppress his excitement. He looked at the two of them, and a fierce light suddenly flashed in his eyes. If I kill these two people, these things will all be mine. Such thoughts kept rolling in his mind. He slowly stretched out his hand towards Klin's throat. Woo! A powerful wave of consciousness suddenly dispersed, and Klin whined, and unexpectedly slowly woke up. A pair of eyes met the middle-aged man in front of him. He blinked and found that the injuries on his body were much better, and then looked at the medical bandages and other things held in the man's other hand. "Did you save us?" he asked in a daze. I checked Xiao Lun next to him, and it seemed that his condition was much better. The man was just an ordinary person with first-level consciousness, and his face was a little stiff at this time. He felt that the fluctuation of second-level consciousness was actually greater than that of a third-level pilot, and his heart trembled. He forced a smile. "These bandages, these medicines." Klin opened his eyes wide and stood up suddenly. "Thank you so much." He lowered his head and bowed heavily. "If it weren't for you, I don't know what would have happened to my companions and me." Seeing the unabashed expression of pure gratitude on Klin's face, a trace of doubt suddenly flashed in the man's eyes. "Doesn't this guy know these drugs exist? What happened to you? Why are you here?" he asked gently, trying to make himself smile more naturally. "My companions and I were seriously injured and had no choice but to fall into a complete coma when we got here. We haven't had any water or food for 2 days," Klin said with a wry smile. The experience of this trip, he, who was originally a little naive, now became a little heavy. "As long as it's okay, it'll be okay." "Thank you so much." Klin knew how important medicine and water were in the radiation belt, and his eyes showed deep gratitude. "If it weren't for you, we might really die here." "It's nothing, nothing. Seeing you is like seeing my former brothers and sisters." The man confirmed that the person in front of him really seemed to know nothing. While he was overjoyed, he also began to pretend. "My name is Klin, she is Xiao Lun. I didn't know who you are. Where are you?" Klin introduced himself. "This is a place for the underground resistance army. I am also a member of it." "How did you get in here?" the man asked in a low voice. "We followed a girl named Laura in. If it hadn't been for her, we would have been outside long ago," Klin said helplessly. "She said earlier that she had gone to get us medicine, and she would probably be back soon." "That's it." The man's eyes flashed. "My name is Ning En, and I have lived here for 4 years. If you have nowhere to go, come with me. At least I can show you the way." Now it is completely certain that the two people in front of them are indeed unaware of the medicine and water on their bodies, otherwise Laura would not have told them to get medicine for them. Although he didn't know what was going on, it was impossible for him to give up such a large amount of wealth. "Let's stabilize these two people first. He also knows the kid Laura, who is well known in this area. She especially likes to help people, and she can be considered an outlier among the radiation people. No matter how much you suffer, you are still willing to help others." "Thank you so much." Clinton was overjoyed. "Come with me, I will notify Laura." The man smiled, his expression more natural. Returning to Flying Ray City, Garen went to the City Lord's material warehouse here and exchanged the few remaining drinking water for some needed radiation materials. Although the main materials for the biochemical pool were not found, other auxiliary materials were obtained. And he prepared a lot of everything. After all, he was also afraid of failure. Novices naturally need to prepare more. The rest of the time he was either self-studying his consciousness or going to the hangar to see how the shell of his body was being repaired. He only needed to cover it with a layer of shell. Since the last incident, the people here have also been strict with the Jineng mine inside. The city lord specially sent a large group of micromecha soldiers to guard the place. At the same time, Garen was given a maintenance point, which was his own. This way, the safety was greatly improved. No one here knows what the Jineng mine is like, and there is no galleon to unlock his own cabin. Unless he forcibly breaks through the cabin, no one can open the hatch and see what's inside, because Galleon has learned his lesson and filled it with a lot of yellow smoke gas, completely enveloped the entire Heinenge mine, and at the same time painted the transparent cabin black, making it impossible to see what was inside. After this treatment, coupled with the protection of the city lord, the safety factor is greatly improved. Pilots only pass through Flying Ray City a few times a year. Under normal circumstances, pilots are not willing to deal too much with radioactive people, so the last situation was really caused by Garen's bad luck. A few days passed in a blink of an eye. After buying the materials, no more new types of radiation materials were found. Garen then planned to leave. Although this time he failed to reach the end of the trip and was intercepted and killed, he turned around midway. The overall goal has been achieved, and the materials for manufacturing the body have been obtained. We have also obtained the auxiliary materials for the biochemical tank of the Energy Master, but the trouble is that many of the materials in the biochemical tank have a shelf life, and some even have a very short shelf life, only a few days. Gallon can only be extended to half a month by refrigeration. After reorganizing and checking the condition of the machine body, and trading in some energy blocks for backup, he finally took off, left the Flying Ray City, and flew rapidly towards the Black Pan domain. This time when he goes back, he must make his own unique mecha and create a biochemical pool. The direction of being an energy mechanic should be the most suitable direction for him to develop the secret weapon of life. I didn't know the special nature of this profession before, so I could only take the single route of being a pilot. But now that I know it, I can no longer deviate from the topic. Garen plans to build his own unique mecha and at the same time transform the biochemical pool, so that both parties can develop together. If possible, maybe we can focus on the direction of energy mechanics. Time flies. In the blink of an eye, 2 years have passed. The battle between Black Pan Domain and White Light has completely reached a stalemate. After Maria College challenged Black Pan Academy, no one could fight, and after the arrogant return after winning 23 games in a row, the friction between the students of the two colleges began to intensify. After that, Caffey, one of the 3 elements and 1 star, kept going out to hunt White Light members, and once caught a pilot from the Maria domain who was among the White Lights. Of course, a war broke out in the bathroom. There are constant battles between the two sides. Maria Realm openly supports White Light, but there have never been many confrontations at the inheritance level. It seems that both sides are constantly accumulating their own strength, like 2 spring fists, constantly pressing back, in order to explode for a moment of strength. On the other side, the Luoyang domain has sent envoys to the Central Academy of their home planet, and has been holding various social and exchange student activities, etc. It seems that they are sitting on a mountain watching a tiger fight. But everyone knows that this domain must be the root of the support for the White Light organization. In the Aurora territory, a civil war broke out. There was friction and conflict between the royal family and the alliance of the great nobles of the territory, and a large-scale civil war broke out, which was turbulent for a while. It seems that the situation that has been peaceful for decades is beginning to fall into war again. After Garen returned to the territory, he never went out and worked hard to build his own unique mecha. He did not give Phyla the slightest chance to retaliate, but everything was calm for a while. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 913. Buzz. Somewhere in the underground space of the Black Disk domain, a simple mecha with only a skeleton stood quietly inside the hangar. Different from the black standard mechas around it, this mecha was made entirely of skeletons made of the highest grade intermediate material alloy steel. System: through the empty skeleton you can see the heart engine flashing white inside. The entire mecha is like the skeleton of a giant, but it still shines with a vibrant heart. The machine body is more than 7 meters high, with a long tail like a Tyrannosaurus rex trailing behind it. It seems that although the main body materials have not yet been filled, it already gives people a powerful and terrifying aura. There are many thick black cables connected around the body, and micro-robots of various sizes are constantly doing fine repairs up and down. There are several engineers below conducting remote control command. Facing the machine body is a white semicircular observation platform extending from the wall. It is wrapped in thick high-strength glass. From inside, you can clearly see the situation of the machine body on the opposite side. At this time, there were several people standing in the observation platform. They are all wearing dark black officer uniforms, with straight and strong figures. A tight black belt is pulled diagonally from the shoulders and buckled around the waist, giving people a simple and capable heroic temperament. Captain Nono, your machine body has been built for 2 years, with an investment of 1.8 billion. The main systems are almost in place. The only thing left is the last one. Filling the main body material will be completely completed. I don't know what you think about it. Are you satisfied with the processing engineering at our Bailong base? A middle-aged man with short white hair asked with a faint smile. As one of the internal mecha manufacturing bases of the Black Annihilation sect in the Black Pen region, he has personally supervised this mecha with his students and deputy commander for 2 years, giving enough attention to the young man in front of him. It takes 2 years to create a mecha from scratch, especially a unique mecha, but it is extremely terrifying to have more than half of the base focus on processing such a mecha. The Bailong base produces hundreds of standard mechas every year. All of them are now discontinued to make way for this unique mecha with a huge investment. All of this is the terrifying energy of the young man in front of him. Thinking of this, the man's heart couldn't help but tremble slightly. Looking at the man as strong as a lion standing in front of him. How old is he? He is 22 years old and he is actually able to create his own unique mecha. Such a genius is undoubtedly extremely rare even in the Black Annihilation section. After all, it is not easy for a 5th level pilot to be so rich. Appeared, and still so young. Hearing his question, the young man in front chuckled. To put it bluntly, it has only been possible to achieve this level of progress in the past 2 years with the full support of Major Baylor. If the manufacturing speed in other places is normal, it will not take 3 to 5 years. Even if you have money, you will have a lot of money. It's not that easy to arrange things. You're welcome, but you need to prepare the next filling materials as soon as possible. According to your plan for the mecha, the filling materials must be at least high level. The best materials in level 5 mechas cost. I'm afraid Major Baylor did not finish what he said, but everyone understood what he said next. Such high-end materials cannot be sold in general stores. Garen smiled and looked at the white shimmer wrapped around the engine of his body. There was a hint of blood in it, which was the special luster unique to blood silver. In the past 2 years, he sold most of the Zhaininj mines through his teacher and obtained a lot of materials for making his own mecha. However, because the materials he needed were too high-end, it was difficult to exchange them with the teacher, so he spent so much money. It took Kuya just barely to complete most of the things, but now there is only one thing missing, the main filling material of the body. The filling material must first meet good conductivity, and then the hardness index, toughness index, memory metal index, corrosion resistance, radiation resistance, temperature resistance range, etc. I carefully selected it, and the best one should be the ring light has become silver. Garen replied. Aura silver? This is a rare metal that is difficult to find in the entire black disk domain. Bell frowned slightly. He just reminded him tactfully, but he was a little speechless in his heart. Aura silver is something that ordinary pilots can only reluctantly buy. After integrating bit by bit into his body the precious metals used to improve its performance, Nono Siwa actually wanted to completely build an entire body out of ring silver. This is no different from building a house out of diamonds. Extremely luxurious. I already have some clues. Garen didn't say much. In the past 2 years, with the full support of the Black Annihilation sect and the full support of his teacher Fan Duo, everything went smoothly, but the only thing that made him unhappy was that Phyla had improved again and seemed to be ready to hit the double-month level. As one of the top talents that have emerged in recent decades, Phyla's progress has been faster and faster recently, seemingly stimulated by Metro. It is said that this time, within a month, he should be able to enter the bi-monthly level. However, Garen himself is still at the 5th level, with no improvement at all. However, he has become much more proficient in the various techniques of the non-mechanic, and the non-mechanic's consciousness has also entered the 2nd level. The calculation method of this mechanic's upgrade is very weird. The mark of consciousness does not exist in his body at all, so that using the potential points, he can't find the existence of the mechanic's mark at all. This surprised Garen. Since the pilot training method could not be improved, he chose to focus on the energy mechanic. After raising the intelligence attribute to 8 points, his computing power took a big step forward, and he successfully entered the 2nd level. However, the 3rd level was a bit troublesome, and the computing power required actually increased by a big step. This made Garen vaguely suspicious. He seemed to be missing a very important thing as an energy master. He didn't believe that any of the energy masters in this world could have that much better computing power than he did now. After chatting with Bell about the relevant machine body processing details, Garen left the White Dragon base and returned to his nearby mountain villa. In the past 2 years, my parents have opened a construction company on their own, using the connections that Galen has gained to pull projects everywhere. They have made a lot of money, and can easily earn several million in general points every year. After his younger brother Burin disappeared, the family gradually got used to life without Burin. However, Garen's only sister stopped hanging around outside for a little bit, but instead became obsessed with gambling and hung out with some so-called princess gangs all day long. Together, we lived happily under the banner of Galleons. Garen didn't bother to care about her. Now he was already an elite 8th grade student in the inner courtyard of Black Pen Academy. After passing the consecutive grade skipping exams easily, he also successfully became a teacher under Fan Duo, who was not outstanding, but not mediocre either. Ordinary student disciples. With the reputation and influence of the Black Oblivion sect, as well as the conflict with Phyla, he became somewhat famous in the inner court, and even made it into the top 100 in the overall rankings. In the villa, as soon as Garen entered the door, he saw a familiar figure sitting on the sofa in his hall, boringly pressing the TV. "Xylan, you didn't train today," he walked over with a smile, took off his coat and handed it to the maid. Someone next to him brought a warm natural juice drink. He picked it up and handed it to Xylan. Garen raised it and took a sip. Xylan was wearing a white tight-fitting leather jacket with a dark gold floral logo on one shoulder, looking somewhat mysterious. She glanced at Garen and curled her lips. "Have you finished your mecha? You run over there every day. You think it's a junk battleship? You can build it in such a short time." This guy had shoulder-length hair, and he seemed to have dyed his hair, the same jet black as Galleon's. Her figure is getting hotter and hotter. She has a bulging front and back, a slender waist, and long, round and powerful legs. One leg is raised up, and her hands are spread out on both sides of the sofa. She is extremely chic, giving people the feeling of a flamboyant and powerful female leopard. There is still one last ingredient missing. Halo light silver. Garen sat down, grabbed the remote control panel next to her, and switched to the military channel. "Damn it, you're still fighting for the TV with me. How old are you? You're already a captain and you're fighting for the TV with me, an ordinary student," Xylan said unhappily. "Did you break through?" Garen smiled and looked at her carefully. The fluctuation of his consciousness has reached the peak of level 4. This guy is worthy of being from a big family. He has no shortage of resources and talents. It seems that he can use it before he is 30 years old. Get your own unique mecha. Although I'm not as perverted as you, I can still manage. Xylan nodded casually. You guys, the top talents of the Black Oblivion sect, are not comparable to those of a small family like mine. Tisk, tisk, look, Huangguang Silver, although I guess you have a big heart, but you use ring silver as the material. She gave a thumbs up to express that she was ashamed. Source, is there anything you can do? I can find some quantity. How much do you want? 5 tons. Garen stretched out a hand. I can only provide you with half. Xylan frowned. The family also has a great demand for radiant silver. The price is based on internal procurement. I have the authority to give you half the price. Thank you. This can save a lot of money. Garen smiled. Why don't you die? With an income of tens of millions a month, you must have made at least hundreds of millions in the past 2 years. And you are shouting about saving, Xylan said with disdain. Garen himself knew clearly that the absorption of the white-colored lightstone was no longer of any use to him. The progress of the secret martial arts of life was very slow. It has been 2 years and now it is only 18%. It seems that it has increased from the original 2% to this. Directly resisting the colorful lightstone, the 6th level of Cold Hell Peacock skill seems to be more difficult to progress than all previous levels. He sold most of the Jineng mines and obtained nearly 3 billion worth of materials. Most of them were spent on mechas, and the remaining few were used to purchase some materials and technologies for the Neng mechanic test bench. There is not much left to spend now. Fortunately, the cost of Huangguang silver should not exceed 1 billion, but the money on hand is barely enough. There will be an auction soon. Ring light silver is said to be rare and rare, but its annual output is also very large. Mainly because it costs a lot, so the output exceeds demand and the price remains high. The highlight of the auction is a piece of silver. The natural 4-ton ring silver is said to be of high purity. If you are interested, you can take a look, Xylan said succinctly. He then added, Philadelphia is said to be going too. Phila, Galen's lips curled up slightly. This guy has been working very hard to steal the source of colored lightstones from me recently. What are you going to do? He is probably a double-month master. Xylan suddenly became interested. So what? As long as I don't leave the outer domain, in the Black Pan domain, if he dares to touch me, my senior brother will also dare to touch him openly. Garen is not worried about this at all. Phyla attaches great importance to him. His current the Black Wind has also changed from being able to be released only once an hour to now being released dozens of times without any problem. Even a wisp of black smoke can be released even further, which is something only the Wind God General can do. The powerful power used belongs to the purer Black Wind. Although it takes a long time to build and superimpose the pyramid, this can already show his terrifying understanding. It doesn't matter if his physique is slow, but the understanding of Black Wind is beyond the reach of anyone. The power of the Fengshen General is that wherever it goes, black smoke fills the air. Just this terrifying automatic attack that is like a field can easily destroy any low-level pilot in the group. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 914. After chatting with Xylan in the hall for a while, Garen saw her off. After dinner, he went back to the room to practice training methods. Now he is practicing all the training methods of the energy weapon master, and there is nothing he can do about the eagle claw. Moving on, the mecha must be unique to have resonance. This kind of life has lasted for nearly 2 years, calculating the 3rd-level training question bank of energy mechanics every day. Sitting cross-legged in an independent training room, Garen carefully calculated the large number of calculation models displayed on the walls around him, and at the same time he was constantly superimposing them with his consciousness. In this process of terrifyingly complex calculations, he could feel his own consciousness is gradually changing, and he has become better at calculation. The consciousness that emerges from the mark of the energy mechanic is completely different from the consciousness of the eagle claw. The sharp claws of the pan-eagle are entangled in the arms, like two groups of cold black air, which can be easily recognized even if you look inside for many galleons. The consciousness of the energy master is a kind of fuzzy air mass that makes people unable to distinguish its shape. Sometimes it is round, sometimes it is square, and more often it is twisted and irregular air mass. It's completely transparent inside, without any color. If you don't look carefully, you can't see its existence at all. Moreover, the energy master's consciousness exists in the void at the back of the head, not in the human body at all. This allowed Garen to completely overturn the common sense of all the consciousness training methods he had learned before. In the White Room, Garen was sitting cross-legged with his eyes slightly closed. Two transparent thorns slowly floated behind him on the back of his head, exuding a faint transparent gas and constantly floating upward. Intelligence has reached 8 points. Each subsequent point of improvement requires 60 points of potential. The remaining 30 points are simply not enough. We must find the Zion Cane as soon as possible. In the past few years, he has been searching everywhere for the whereabouts of the Zion Cane. With the help of multiple channels, he found some clues, but because he had to get a unique mecha for the time being, he couldn't go out and search for it himself. As war continues to break out between the white light and black disk domains, extremely dangerous encounters may occur throughout the radiation belt. It is already far more dangerous than before. After practicing cross-legged calculations for a while, he felt that the consciousness of the energy master had increased a little bit. Garen opened his eyes with satisfaction, but found that time was flying fast. It was almost 8 o'clock in the evening, and it was already dark outside. Along the window, you can see a black shuttle-shaped warship patrolling slowly not far away in the sky, its surface covered with a large number of flashing lights. Garen exhaled and took out a black key from his pocket. There was only one spike on the key. No matter how you looked at it, the key looked too simple. It didn't look like it was used to open the door at all. What was it? The door will only need a sawtooth to open, which will not prevent thieves at all. Every time he finished practicing calculations, he would take out the key and examine it carefully. His intuition told him that this key was not that simple. Through the spikes of a variety of high-precision instruments, Galen discovered that the material of this key is very hard, and nothing can destroy it. Holding the key and turning it over in his hand, suddenly, Garen's movements froze. He held the lower end of the key, held it upright in front of his eyes, and examined it carefully. Every detail of this key has been completely memorized in his mind over the past few years, and it is so familiar that he can no longer be familiar with it. But now, there is an extremely small black diamond pattern on this key, only the size of a grain of rice. It looks very complicated, even a little dizzy. Garen carefully observed the pattern. It looked like many flower patterns superimposed on each other, and also like many weird symbols combined in a pile, giving people a mysterious and ancient feeling. As he continued to focus on this pattern, suddenly, a ray of white light burst out from the pattern, split into two beams with great precision, and shot into Garen's eyes. Buzz! An inexplicable dizzy feeling appeared in Garen's mind. His eyes were all white, and he felt dizzy and his whole body was lightheaded. His eyes were covered by white light and he couldn't see anything. Only his ears could hear the subtle sound of breaking through the air, as if he was flying at high speed. But the skin doesn't feel any real airflow. For a long time, after he slowly adapted to the spots caused by the white light in front of him, he didn't know what was going on. He was standing in front of a small white wooden door. The wooden door was engraved with a complex flower-like pattern, but I have never seen this kind of flower. Welcome to the Mechanics Union, a clear girl's voice came from the door. This is a place for exchanges between energy masters. The area you are in is the A54 area of the home planet, with a population of 789. You are the 790th new official energy master. Please keep your identity key. If you miss it, please go to the mechanic division of Central College to reapply. Thank you for your cooperation and wish you a happy day. The female voice faded away. The door in front of Garen opened with a click. A lively fountain square appeared in front of him outside. The people coming and going were dressed in different clothes. They didn't look like people from the same place. Instead, they looked more like people of different races from many countries and nationalities mixed together. Their skin color was white and black. There were all kinds of colors, yellow and red, and Garen even saw two humans with lizard tails squatting on a stall and bargaining with the stall owner. A burst of lively people rushed through the door, making him slightly stunned. Trying to walk out of the small door, Garen put away the key and looked at the sky and surroundings. The sky is a very ordinary blue sky with white clouds, but there is no sun, but it is still very bright. I don't know where the light comes from. It is surrounded by a small ring-shaped town structure, surrounded by ordinary single-story houses that are neither high nor short. On the sides of the houses are gray-brown cloths of different patterns hanging, blowing slightly in the wind. The strange thing is that when Garen saw these cloths, he could identify the meanings of the patterns on the cloths. These cloths were the names of various shops. Can you please stay out of the way? A voice sounded to his right. It was a dark-skinned woman wearing a white headscarf. She was tall and looked extremely thin, almost as thin as a mummy. Garen stood aside in shock and watched the woman pass through him and walk towards a shop on the left. He himself happened to be standing on the left side of the steps at the entrance of the store. Is this place an illusion or? Garen frowned, carefully distinguishing his body. Soon he discovered that the core of the secret martial arts in his body was missing, and the soul seed had also disappeared. It was obvious that this place was purely a virtual community. Real hallucination simulation. He began to slowly follow the example of others and walked around the circular shops in the town. There were many people coming in and out of the shops, but the flow of people in front of the stalls on the ground was even greater. The fountain square in the middle of dozens of shops was densely packed with people. There are more and more stalls, and it seems that as time goes by, more and more people are setting up stalls. Garen tried to walk towards the door of a store. But he found a transparent barrier blocking him. A bald man strode up the steps and glanced at him contemptuously. You want to enter the store even if you don't have money? You idiot. Garen didn't get angry, as if he didn't hear anything at all. He continued to explore everything here. He began to try all the dozens of ring shops around the square, but found that none of them could be entered. And as time goes by, some stores will suddenly and instantly disappear transparently, and then other stores will automatically move closer and expand themselves like building blocks to fill the gap left by this store. It's amazing. Garen tried to break a corner of the wall at the edge of the store, but found that it was extremely hard and could not be broken. It seems that it is enforced by the rules here and cannot be broken. This idiot is still here. How stupid is he? He actually wants to break the stone on the wall here. The bald man just happened to walk out of the shop again, followed by a beautiful woman with a charming face. The two hugged each other tightly, seemingly intimate. Of walking together. Garen glanced at him and ignored him. How come the Alliance even has country pigs like this? It's annoying to look at. The bald man cursed arrogantly. Another thin man with red skin was about to enter the store, but he pushed him away casually. Get out of the way, he's so upset when he sees the red ghost. The red-skinned man remained silent, not daring to speak back. The bald man walked out proudly and headed towards another shop. Garen looked up at the cloth in this shop, the information point. It's obviously a place that sells information. He tried to go in again, but unfortunately the transparent light curtain blocked him. Don't bother. You can't enter the store without money. Your funds will be automatically detected here, the red-skinned man who was pushed away just now said to Garen with a bitter smile. He didn't go in. Walking toward Garin from the steps at the door of the store. Is this your first time coming here? His common language accent was very standard, and it was obvious that there was some kind of language translation system here. Yes, Garin nodded. Excuse me, what exactly is this place? You'll know after you come here a few times, the red-skinned man whispered. This is a small trading market for Alliance mechanics. It is a virtual market that only trades knowledge and technology. It is a knowledge bazaar. However, there will be an item bazaar in a while, and then there will be really many people. You can trade directly. Items. Knowledge bazaar? Item bazaar, Garin frowned. Is this some kind of alliance of energy masters? Of course, all energy masters will automatically be issued a guidance key by the guide, and they can enter this virtual world and conduct various transactions. This is the real secret of the energy masters. Only the energy masters can enter here, others there is no way to get in or out. The red-skinned man explained in a low voice. The first time you came here, you didn't have your mentor with you, so be careful and you will suffer a loss when buying and selling. Who are the people participating in the market here? Are they all from the same area? Garin continued to ask. It was rare to meet someone who was willing to answer his questions. No, the people here may come from anywhere, and even some of their appearances may not be real. There are expensive face-changing tools that can modify oneself. The people here may come from nearby planets, star fields, or even pass by. As a mechanic in the spaceship caravan, anything is possible. The red-skinned man shook his head. Thank you for your explanation. I haven't asked for your name yet. Orsay, my name is Orsay, and there is a long list of surnames after it. There is no need to announce it. I am an energy mechanic in the caravan passing by here. I am only level 3. The red-skinned man smiled bitterly. 3. A super level mechanic is at the lowest level here. I am Garin. No way, the 3rd level is actually the lowest level. Garin was stunned. He had been practicing hard for 2 years, and now he was only at level 2, not even level 3, yet the person in front of him actually said that level 3 was only the lowest level. It's true. There's no way. There's no good energy mark. I'm using the lowest end wasp mark, and the auxiliary calculation is only 3 times. I can only make the lowest level reconnaissance wasp. Orsay smiled bitterly again. It's higher. The energy weapon mark is too expensive. Our caravan pooled all the funds to buy me such an ordinary mark. Energy weapon master is simply a money-burning profession. Energy mark? What is that? It was the first time Garin heard about this thing. Isn't it? You don't even know the mark of the energy weapon. Orsay's expression suddenly became weird this time. What kind of teacher taught you? Without the aid of the mark of energy mechanics, our mechanics master's computing power would never even be able to reach the 3rd level. Garin was slightly startled. Sure enough, his master felt that he might be missing something. Unexpectedly, the facts completely confirmed his suspicion. Indeed, what he lacked seemed to be something that is indispensable for energy weapon masters: energy weapons. Imprint. Let's go have a drink first. I'm convinced that your instructor didn't even tell you basic common sense before letting you in. Orsay shook his head helplessly. The two of them entered a tavern-like shop at the edge one after another. Orsay seemed to have paid Garin the bill, allowing him to finally enter the shop. The tavern is very large, a large area the size of a football field, filled with white tables and chairs of the same size. There are a few people sitting sparsely apart, and they are all sitting very far apart, and you can't hear any of their voices. It's obviously soundproofed. The two found a seat by the wall and sat down, and Orsay knocked on the table. I'll have 2 ales. Hot. With a swish sound, 2 cups of hot light brown ale instantly appeared in front of the two of them. Both were large cups. A large amount of foam kept pouring out of them, and they disappeared automatically when they were about to fall to the table. Thank you, Garin nodded. There was no waiter here. It seemed that there was an automatic program controlling it.